Chris Voss, once the FBI's lead international hostage negotiator, has a knack for stripping the mystique from high-stakes diplomacy.
You do not hold people hostage or engage in ransom-taking to get 100% of your way.
They're trying to hold veterans hostage to force Obamacare on the American people.
You cannot negotiate with a hostage situation.
We've got a group of folks who think that they can hold America hostage.
The president somehow wants to keep this hostage.
They've taken hostages.
No president should be held hostage.
Holding our government hostage.
Holding the U.S. hostage?
Hold the entire country hostage.
Hold them hostage.
Don't hold anyone hostage.
They took hostages.
Hostage taking.
Stop taking hostages.
They had to take the country hostage.
His tools of the trade weren't high-tech gadgets or grandiose speeches. They were words, deliberate, well-timed, and profoundly human. And it's precisely that humanity which makes his lessons so universal.
Was I born to be a hostage negotiator? I don't know. Was I born to create business bourbon? Maybe.
Whether he was diffusing situations involving kidnappers or dealing with hardened terrorists, the techniques he developed are just as applicable to negotiating a pay rise as they are to life or death exchanges. The world of negotiation often conjures images of boardrooms filled with power suits, contracts being slammed onto glossy tables, and smirking titans of industry smugly shaking hands. Voss, however, dismantles these cliches with surgical precision. Negotiation is not about you, he often remarks, a statement that feels like the antithesis of popular portrayals. It's about the other person.
I started out my law enforcement career with Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. It was close to where I grew up. Then I got interested in federal law enforcement, joined the FBI, ended up on the SWAT team, FBI Pittsburgh, my first office, and then ended up getting transferred to New York City where I was on a terrorist task force, and my path there led me onto the hostage negotiation team.
It's a deceptively simple idea that underpins every one of his strategies, each of which is designed to strip away barriers and build genuine understanding between opposing sides. At the heart of his approach is something so basic, so intuitive, that most of us overlook its power entirely: listening. Voss's insistence on being a mirror to the person you're negotiating with, repeating their words, their phrases, might seem laughably simple at first glance.
Whether or not it's correct to kind of use the hostage terms by politicians, when you see this as somebody who's negotiated a lot, when you see what's going on in Washington, what jumps out to you?
Well, there's two things about that. You know, on a personal note, I like that they use the word because then it gives me a chance to be on your show.
People want to feel heard, he explains, his tone carrying the weight of experience. Repeating the last 1 to 3 words someone has said makes them feel understood and keeps the conversation flowing. It's the simplest tool in his arsenal, yet one of the most powerful.
Negotiators are working around the clock.
The deadline for execution has passed.
With us now to help break down the investigation, FBI Special Agent Hostage Negotiator, Christopher Voss.
My role as a hostage negotiator was to connect authentically with the victim, the victim's family, and with the hostage taker. Everybody really deserves to have somebody hear what they have to say.
The beauty of mirroring lies in its subtlety. It doesn't feel like a tactic. It feels like respect.
You know, negotiation is letting the other side have your way. So mirroring creates the opportunity for them actually to present you with your deal, only they thought it was their idea. It's just a simple repetition of the last 1 to 3 words of what somebody said.
Mirroring is just one part of Voss's larger philosophy, which is rooted in empathy. But empathy, in Voss's world, isn't about agreeing with the other person or conceding ground unnecessarily.
Guys, we're talking about mirrors today. Jedi mind trick. The last 1 to 3 words are the important 1 to 3 words.
It's about understanding them so well that you can frame the conversation in a way that works for both of you. That's where labeling emotions comes in. Voss encourages negotiators to acknowledge and articulate the emotions of the other side. It seems like you're frustrated, or it sounds like you're worried about how this will play out, are examples he uses to show how labeling works. The effect is almost magical.
Labeling negatives diffuses negatives. Every time, every time, every time, every time, every time. Now, you don't like that for 2 reasons. First of all, You're thinking, well, if it reinforces positives, why doesn't it reinforce negatives? That's just logical. Secondly, you're going to say, oh, no, it does not. Because every time I've tried to call out a negative, it's blown up in my face.
When you label someone's feelings, you validate them. It's like flipping a switch in their brain, he explains. And in that moment, the tension dissipates. In the FBI, diffusing tension wasn't just a good idea, it was essential. When lives were on the line, the stakes left no room for error. But Voss realized something crucial during those moments. Negotiation isn't about getting to yes as quickly as possible. In fact, he argues, rushing to a yes can be the biggest mistake of all.
I'm going to talk with you today about something that keeps coming up over and over again. The yes mode, momentum selling, the yes momentum. Guys, I'm sorry, this stuff is killing you. It's a yes addiction. Being addicted to get the word yes is like being addicted to a drug. It kills you long term. It's killing your long-term relationships. It's killing your ability to implement. It's killing your ability to make deals.
Yes is often a trap, Voss warns. People say yes to things they don't really agree with all the time, just to move the conversation along or to avoid confrontation. The key, he insists, is to aim for no. This is where Voss's approach takes a surprising turn. Conventional wisdom tells us that no is the end of the road in any negotiation. For Voss, it's the beginning.
Gunmen burst into the Chase Manhattan Bank in Park Slope this morning, and ever since, negotiators have been trying to get them to give up.
Hostage negotiators used a bullhorn to try and talk to the gunmen.
Billy, we're on the same team.
What persuaded the gunmen finally to come out?
I think it was excellent hostage negotiating.
A clear no is better than a fake yes, he says, his voice tinged with the kind of confidence that can only come from decades of experience. When people feel safe enough to say no, that's when you really start making progress. This counterintuitive insight has revolutionized the way many people think about negotiation, turning no from a dead end into a doorway. The goal, Voss explains, is to keep the conversation moving until you hear two critical words. That's right. These words, he says, are the holy grail of negotiation because they signal genuine agreement. When someone says that's right, they're telling you they believe what you're saying. They're internalizing it, he explains. This is a world apart from the obligatory nodding and empty agreements we've all encountered.
And when somebody says that's right, they're telling you they felt completely understood, which means now you have the go signal because now their brain is willing to listen. When somebody says you're right, what they're really saying to you is, please shut up. Stop talking. I can't take it anymore. Go away. Your right is designed to get you to shut up and preserve the relationship. That's right, on the other hand, that tiny little change is what we say when we feel completely heard.
That's right means you've made a real connection, and from there, the conversation shifts. But negotiation, as Voss knows all too well, isn't just about words. It's also about stakes. And stakes, as any economist will tell you, are not created equally. People are far more motivated by the fear of loss than by the promise of gain, a principle famously explored by Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman. Voss calls this concept bending reality. It's not about manipulation, it's about framing. Highlight what the other person stands to lose if no agreement is reached, and you immediately gain their attention.
Imagine if you're a hostage and the bad guys have 4 of you and they're asking for a plane to the Bahamas. And you hear the negotiator on the other end say, why don't we just split the difference? You take 2, we'll keep 2. I mean, that's got to be horrifying. It's just a ridiculous idea. And splitting the difference is also ridiculous in business and personal life.
People will work twice as hard to avoid losing something as they will to gain something, Voss explains. And in the high-stakes world of hostage negotiation, this principle was often a matter of life and death. One of Voss's most intriguing strategies involves creating the illusion of control. Negotiation, he argues, is not about domination. It's about making the other person feel like they're steering the ship, even when you're the one quietly charting the course. He accomplishes this by asking calibrated questions, open-ended queries that begin with what or how. These questions force the other person to think and to engage. How do you see this working? Or What's the biggest challenge you're facing? Are the kinds of questions Voss favors. They're disarming, and they give the other person a sense of agency. But as anyone who's ever negotiated anything knows, even the best laid plans can fall apart. That's why Voss is adamant about the importance of guaranteeing execution.
When you're an FBI hostage negotiator, you deal with the mad, the bad, and the sad, to quote Tom Strentz, the godfather of the FBI's hostage negotiation program. That means you believe you never split the difference.
You can have the best agreement in the world, but if you don't make sure it gets executed, it's worthless, he says. This means paying close attention to every detail, from the words people use to the body language they exhibit. People communicate more through tone and body language than they do through words, Voss observes. It's a skill he honed in his FBI days, but it's just as useful in the boardroom, or even at the dinner table. When it comes to bargaining, Voss has a specific playbook. He advocates for the Ackerman model, a systematic approach to reaching a deal. The method involves setting a target price, making calculated concessions, and using empathy and leverage to close the gap. It's not about being ruthless, it's about being strategic. Negotiation isn't a battle, Voss insists. It's a dance. And like any good dancer, you need to know when to lead and when to follow.
When you cross the street is a negotiation. Getting your coffee at Starbucks is a negotiation. You're probably in 3 to 7 negotiations every single day. Your life could be in a completely different place just by improving how you negotiate.
But the real game changer in Voss's approach is what he calls the Black Swan.
His company is called the Black Swan Group. That is the baddest ass name I have ever heard. I love that. Now, what is the Black Swan Group? That's like the coolest. What is that?
Thank you very much. A black swan is something unusual that has a great impact, and we like to think that the way we negotiate has a great impact.
See? That's cool, right?
I love it.
These are the unknown factors, hidden motivations, fears or desires that can completely shift the dynamics of a negotiation. Every negotiation has at least one black swan, he says. The challenge is finding it. This requires active listening, relentless curiosity, and a willingness to dig deeper. It's not just about asking questions, it's about asking the right questions and paying attention to the answers.
Well, if people matter to you, then you will benefit the most. Because you're going to make better deals with people. It's going to come to you more naturally. This style of negotiation, this emotional intelligence-based approach, is the ultimate in collaboration. So if you want to collaborate, then you're going to do well with this.
The beauty of Voss's philosophy lies in its universality. His techniques are as relevant to corporate mergers as they are to resolving disputes with your teenager. They're grounded in empathy, precision, and a deep understanding of human behavior. And perhaps most importantly, they remind us that negotiation isn't about winning or losing. It's about connection. As Voss puts it, great negotiators aren't great talkers. They're great listeners.